It is now 2 o'clock. And this is our Measure R meeting. Before we get started, because it's September 11th, I would like to hold a moment of silence to remember all the souls that were lost today. Okay. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, we can. Committee Member Jones. Jones.
Here.
Committee Member Armstrong.
Here.
And Committee Member Hoon.
Here.
And I'll make a note that Committee Member Red Wine is absent. And currently our fifth committee member is vacant.
Okay. Well, we do have enough for a quorum today. Does anybody have any public comment they'd like to mention, talk about? Any questions or concerns? Okay. We'll move on to the next item, which is to discuss the items related to the Measure R transactions and use tax. Item A under that is review and discuss Animal Services Department request for the 24-25 Measure R funding as presented by Sheriff Scott and Budget and Logistics Manager Nancy McAlphin. Did I say that right?
Laughlin.
Laughlin?
Close enough. She's
I'm-
right.
I'm
She's right
I'm
here. so
bad
she
with
can
names. I
correct
apologize. Did the board get a chance to review the letter of submission by the sheriff?
Yeah, I looked that over.
Okay. Do we have any questions on it? I know I do.
Just one question. It's a good question, but the horse trailer figures changed from 60,000 to 16,000. Is that accurate? Good job.
Here, Nancy, if you want. Yep. Here. You're the rep.
Yeah, we received new quotes, and that was fitting for the purposes that they needed and the lowest quote, so we reduced the amount.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Is it an enclosed trailer or is it an open trailer?
It's enclosed,
It is enclosed.
yes.
Okay. The other questions I had were for the vehicle that you want to use to tow it. It's a F-250 four-wheel drive.
That's correct.
Okay. Do you know if it's a diesel?
It is
Or
not. It is a gas, I believe.
Is it gas?
I believe so.
Okay. Then the other question is what is the towing capacity on it? I know that's a tough one for you. The reason I'm asking is because I know when you buy trucks, you can get them with a tow package. My truck I got with the tow package. It means it's set up for towing. You have the trailer hitch that is attached to the frame, transmissions, heavier duty, have all kinds of little nuances that go along with it to make the vehicle run better and
It does
last longer.
include all of those items.
It does.
Yes, it does.
Okay. Those are the questions I had on that. Now, the other one I had was on the kennels.
Mhm.
What kind of a vehicle do you have now that you're using to transport the animals?
They use a large van,
Okay.
and these kennels, which are also used currently by the Humane Society,
Mhm.
they're stackable, and so they can transport more animals per vehicles by being able to stack and secure
Mhm.
them in the vehicle.
Now, is the vehicle that you're using, is it yours? Is it the animal controls?
It's a county vehicle.
Oh, it's a county vehicle.
Mhm. Yes.
Okay. Do you anticipate purchasing your own vehicle to transport the animals at some point in the future?
The van that's currently used is under the umbrella of the sheriff's department. Animal services is a branch of the sheriff's department. So the van was from Del Norte Sheriff's Office. So,
Oh, originally?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, oh, there's a sheriff.
Hi, guys. Sorry.
Hi, no, that's okay.
Got grabbed out there.
No, we were just discussing about the truck. You wanted to make sure that had the tow package on it, to be able to tow the trailer efficiently, trailer capacity, towing capacity, that kind of thing. I want to make sure that we get the right vehicle. That's
Get the
all.
right one. Yeah. Yeah, this one will be 4-wheel drive, have all the things they need. That, they're coming down off a low divide mountain or French Hill with a couple goats or cows or
Right.
horses, and it's so dangerous. So
Oh, yeah.
this will make a huge difference for them.
Now, one other question, is this going to be outfitted with light bars and all that stuff, radios, or is it just going to be the truck with a sheriff's sticker on the side?
It'll just be the truck with the decals,
Mm-hmm.
and then we've got some extra radios
Okay.
that we'll put in there so they can communicate with dispatch. We could add, we've got a little money, we could add maybe a backlight bar or something, but they're non-peace officers, so
I was just more concerned about, radios for communication than anything else. So
Yeah.
so if something happens, they're able to get a hold of somebody,
right,
for help.
right.
That was my biggest concern.
So
Yeah, I didn't bring the quotes. I think this one was a gas truck.
Mm-hmm.
We were looking at diesels also. Whichever one the quote came in the highest, I don't recall.
I was just curious because towing
Yeah.
capacities differ a lot between diesel and gas.
The diesels get a little better mileage, and you seem to get a little bit longer life out of them.
Right.
So, but I'll find out, and I'll let you guys know.
Yeah, to me, that's a minor issue. I was just curious is all. I just want to make sure we get a good vehicle that lasts you,
Right.
more than, 1 or 2 years. I want something that'll last 5 to 7 years.
Right,
Up here, they get beat up pretty bad because of the road conditions.
you bet.
So I just want to make sure we get the best vehicle for best bang for our buck. The only reason I'm asking. The one other thing I had too was on the remodel project. You were saying that you're just going to remove the counter that's there and put new flooring in. Is there anything else going on there?
Yeah, what brought that to light was the safety of the staff.
Mhm.
And I think you guys all
Yeah,
took a look at it.
yeah, I've been there several times.
And what's happening is, we're making a lot of arrests and taking animals from people, and they're showing up at the dog pound,
Mhm.
and they're mad. Instead of going to that glass countertop, they're just blazing right through, right to the manager's office.
Oh, that's not good.
And we talked with building maintenance and about putting some kind of security door there, and that became difficult because of the way it would swing and so forth, and not enough room. And then we got to looking at the space and the usage in there with now that we have more staffing finally in there. So if we move that counter around, then we could put that safety door in correctly, and it'll give them a little bit more space behind the counter.
Good.
So,
Oh, good.
and it'll upgrade because it is a really old building. So
Oh, I know it
along
is.
with it, we're getting some upgrades too.
Yeah, I've been out there several times, and I know what you're talking about out there. And I was just curious what all, what the thoughts were behind that. Do you have any plans to paint the outside of the building at some point soon, or is that in the works? Or
We've talked about it a few times. Some of the volunteers were gonna paint the front, the entrance. But I think, that's definitely something that needs to be done. Also, when we looked at it, the volunteers looked at it with me, a lot of the paneling's also rotten.
right?
So I told them, you better wait. I didn't realize it was rotten until kind of.
Yeah, I didn't know it was rotted there either. So my experience with being there is going through the front doors
Right.
and looking at the stuff there and looking at the front of the building, and it looks a little shabby. So
Yeah.
I was just thinking, you know, we can make it look a little nicer, but there's a lot of work involved. That brings up a whole new, whole new, you know, count of problems that
Bigger
will arise from
project
that. Yeah. So those are all the questions I had. Any other questions?
I have a question, Sheriff Scott. What's the possibility of putting signage on stating that these were purchased with Measure R funding?
Yeah, anything Measure R funded, we, search and rescue building, if you drive by there, we put the sign, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but I haven't told anybody, but we put a nice blue big sign up there on the wall. And then we had another one made for, the dog pound. I just got to figure out where to put it. And then the vehicles will do something similar, supported by Measure R, so people see it.
Including the 4 cruisers we got?
Yeah, the ones, yeah, anything purchased with Measure R,
Right.
we want to make sure.
Yeah, because I know they
Thank
had
you.
some.
Yeah.
Yeah, because as I recall, you had some that were already in the regular budget that were being purchased along with Measure
I think
R.
we
That was
have-
from several years ago, so I don't know. I've slept since then.
It's
So
taken us that long to get those same vehicles. So, yes, one was an insurance replacement, and then
Right.
the other 4 are actually funded.
are
by
actually
Measure
funded
R.
through Measure R. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's been a couple of years. I was just going from several years back. So
Yeah,
No,
and let
no.
me know if you like the signs that we had made up. They're pretty nice, big blue signs, and I think the public will like them. So,
yeah, I mean, the biggest problem we're having is people, you know, being able to see what the monies are going for, because, you know, with Measure S, they're doing the work down there, you know,
Right.
on Front Street, doing those kinds of things, and they have their signs out there. And we're doing a lot of things here, but a lot of them is more like behind the scenes kind of stuff, and a lot of people don't realize that there is monies that are being allocated to do things. We're just trying to figure out ways to make sure that people can see that their money is going to a good use.
I'll definitely make sure we get signage.
Well, I appreciate that. You have a
I just have one comment hearing about the paneling, you know, siding maybe needing to be replaced, evaluated, and replaced. You know, I appreciate this relatively modest request, you know, to improve services out there. So, you know, I would just encourage you to investigate that with building maintenance. Hey, how much would it cost to replace that siding with what's needed, and come back with that, you know,
yeah,
just because, you know, in our climate, that's needed, and you know, seeing a lot of improvements out there, and, you know, how much could it possibly cost? 40, 60, you know, whatever building maintenance tells you. You know, that's
yeah.
it would be a similarly, you know, in my mind, worthwhile project for Measure R.
I agree with that. I was going to mention that.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, because, you know, we want to improve our county as best we can with what little we have. We try to make it stretch as far as we can to get as many things out of it possible.
Could have a quick recess. You call them how much we need for the siding. No.
Right.
Add on 40 grand. You know, that's,
Well, you know,
in my mind, it needs $40,000.
the only thing I know from my experiences with stuff like that, when you start seeing rotted paneling and stuff like that, there's usually something more going on inside the wall, which can dramatically change things. But no, but I think, you know, if you can get us you know, a cost estimate, and that, you know, when we have our next meeting, that would be great. If you guys agree with that, because we'll probably meet in about a month, I think. So,
Yeah, we'll talk with building maintenance and
yeah,
work
because
on that, yeah,
you know, because I know that place needs a lot of help out
absolutely.
there. I do. So, any other questions for the sheriff while we have him here? Okay. As far as these things that he's requested, I'm going to need to have a,
Mr.
Motion.
Chairman, I would recommend that we, as a committee, approve this request and pass it on to the Board of Supervisors for their approval.
okay, I need a,
Second.
you second that. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for all that you do for our community. Okay. Move on to section B, which is review and discuss the 24-25 final recommended budget.
Yeah, the committee members, I just asked our controller, Shad, to provide some financials for all of you to review, and we are here to answer any questions you have. They were provided to you again by our controller, Shad. He is also here to answer any questions.
Did you guys, were you guys able to review this?
Okay,
Any-
I'm going to say, can you walk us through it line by line? Just make sure we're on the same page.
Sure can.
Just the highlights. I mean, I understand most of it, but I just want to make sure I understand.
So you see, the $30,000 you just approved for the project remodel, that is not yet in your budget, but you will see a decrease in the department allotment line, that $3,091,000 number. So keep an eye on that, because we go to the board in 2 weeks, that'll be 3061. And you'll see a $30,000 increase in line 70923 capital improvements, because that size of a project will fall under capital improvements. So just keep an eye on that. That's going to be a change from what you saw, what you see today, because I did not have that 30,000 in there, because I didn't know, we didn't know if we were going to approve it or what the board was going to do, the committee was going to do. So we'll go through this and ask any questions as you go along. The first half of the document, the top part of the document, that $3,091,170, that's the amount of available, say, undedicated funds Measure R currently has. Now, remember, I just said I'm going to reduce that by 30,000. So we just approved 30,000 for the ag department, so that'll be 3,061,170. But that represents the amount of funds held in Measure R that are unallocated, undedicated, and unspent. Moving down the list, the 577,945, that's the op-trans out for sheriff department. That number represents the pre-negotiated and approved expenditures for the sheriff's department on the patrol side of things, patrol/admin. The number represents 16% of the deputies and sergeants' wages. It represents 100% of a full-time dispatcher and 100% of a clerical staff. So that comes to that total of 577,945. Moving down to jail, that's specific to the jail. Again, that represents 10% of the correctional officer's pay. That was the wage adjustment we made. It also includes, I want to say, there's no clerical in the jail being picked up and no coroner. So that represents just the jail staff and their percentage of wage adjustments that are funded by Measure R. Go to the next line down, 70913 probation. Again, that represents the percentages of probation officers, facility managers, reentry officers that are funded by, or mainly in that one, probation officers' wage adjustments funded by Measure R.
Do you remember what that percentage is?
It is
Sorry.
10% for a supervising deputy probation officer and 10% for a deputy probation officer. So it's a 10% wage adjustment funded by Measure R.
Thank you.
Reentry services, that used to be, we used to call that juvenile hall. That's been redone now to the Youth Opportunity Center. And we have reentry services, which is what we do with our youth as far as transporting them to and from holding facilities, programs. And so that number represents also a wage adjustment offset by Measure R. It's 7.5% for the facility manager, 7.5% for the reentry officers. I think there's one supervising deputy probation officer that is assigned to that unit, so they get 10% of theirs as offset. District Attorney. District Attorney's budget represents 10% of a wage adjustment for the chief DA investigator and the other DA investigator. They have two investigators, a chief and then, I guess, non-chief, and there's a 10% wage adjustment offset by Measure R for those positions. Code enforcement, that's going to be our public nuisance. Code enforcement, that number 195 represents one fully funded code enforcement officer. It represents a project on South Bend cleanup that has been rolled over from last year. This year it's not completed yet. And this committee also approved a offset for a third code enforcement officer that's funded by our ERF funding, so our homeless abatement funding. I think that we agree, you all said at the last meeting or approved the last meeting, whatever was not being met by those dollars would be backfilled with these dollars. So it's a split funding source between Health Human Services and Measure R. Planning Department, we've funded one full-time planner. And that's the representation, 87,570 is our projected cost for one full-time planner year-round. Coroner budget, 3,150. When we went through the process with the Sheriff's Department, the coroner also falls under the Sheriff's responsibilities, and that position got a 3.5% wage adjustment through Measure R, so that represents 3.5% of those costs. Admin, the admin office, we started off the journey with a grant writer. That became extremely hard to fill. We were having trouble with that, finding that person. Came back to the committee, asked to retool it into a admin services coordinator, which was approved. So that represents one admin services coordinator position in administration. The current capital improvement budget, remind you, that was going to go up by 30. That will be increased by 30,000 after today's actions. That 677,917 represents the approved Vets Hall parking lot, as well as a parking lot at the Sheriff's Office. So the parking lot at the Vets Hall is there, but in pretty bad shape, so they're going to be fixing that. And then the Sheriff's Office, actually, it's a gravel lot right now, so that's going to be a completely new parking lot in there. And then we come down to the Vet Cemetery. That $60,000 was approved by this committee for the, I believe it was a sprinkler system, a new sprinkler system put out at the cemetery. Moving down from there, we get into our revenue. This year we projected 1.7. That could be a little light. It depends on who you ask. People say we're going to see a big downturn in spending. Some other counties have seen some downturn in spending, so we're at 1.7. Rest assured, if it comes in above that, that money stays in the Measure R fund. If it comes in below that, that would tap into our fund balance, available funds of that $3 million I first started talking about. So that is each line with some detail behind it, and if you have any questions, let it rip.
Thank you.
Any questions?
No, just it's nice to have some reserve funds, in the hopper, so there's a lot of opportunity, in the coming year and future. Looks to me like a good situation.
Yeah, it's been a pretty good situation since Measure R started. We've been very fortunate so far.
I'll add something to the conversation just so the committee's aware. I did tally up our 23-24 costs for the year. What did we actually spend last year in total? Not budget, but actual spent, and it was $1,124,000. It would have been actually higher if we had higher staffing rates. But again, we don't transfer Measure R funds out of the Measure R account if we don't have the costs. So if the Sheriff's Office, which we all want them to be fully staffed, if they were fully staffed, we'd see a higher number being spent. But
Right.
That's all we had last year.
Right. Yeah. How many officers is the Sheriff's Department down? Do you?
I think it depends on the day. You have to ask the sheriff.
I think the last report was they had 6 vacancies in patrol.
That's a lot. Any other questions on this so far?
Budget looks good.
I would like to mention, and Auditor Controller Shad's pointed this out before, is that the fund balance is, of course, increasing due to staffing levels at some of these departments that have been funded through some wage adjustments. And we don't have those staffing in those positions, and the wage adjustments are not being transferred, so the fund balance is partially because of that.
Right. And if all those positions were filled, it would go down quite a bit, I'm sure. Any
Well, you
other?
could look at, just for the committee, if you look at the budget report, I think it's 3B. If you look at that 3B page, the very bottom, it says total expenditure is 5.4 million. Right above that, it says 2.366 million.
Mhm.
So that 2.366 is actually what we're projecting to spend. So if we were, and then again, add 30,000 of that for the remodel. But if we were fully staffed at 100% and everything planned out the way we project, that would be the number we spend this year for Measure R dollars. But we already know we're into September. We already have vacancies, so
Yeah.
we're not. I don't think we're going to, but hopefully get people on, and maybe they come in at a higher level than we think, so they get paid a little extra. And
Yeah. I mean that's fluid. I'm sure we understand that, you know. Because if we get really good help, they're going to want more. They're going to expect more pay.
yeah, if you could bring someone that's transferring an agency, they're not going to start off at a trainee level or a
Right.
deputy one.
Right.
Mhm.
Any other questions, concerns? Anything else? Okay. I don't think we need a motion on accepting this, do we? Didn't think so.
Now, B, C, and D of today's agenda is just review items and an update.
Right. Yeah, because we're not doing anything other than what the sheriff was requesting at this point. Okay, so we reviewed the 25-24. Now we can review and discuss the 23-24 end financial reports. Jar.
So you want to cover the balance sheet? You have a question about the balance sheet at 3C? No?
No, I don't.
Trying to, and then we provide the revenue expense report, which should tie back to that balance sheet.
Right. Any questions on that one? And then we have the breakdown. Then we have the breakdown here. Any questions on any of that? I think we're good.
Yep.
Okay. No questions. We'll move on to subsection D, which is an update on the capital improvement project by the Board of Supervisors.
Yeah, that's an update from me. I was hoping to have a little bit better news and actually have a date that the project would be beginning on the two parking lots that we've approved through this committee and through the board at the Veterans Hall and across from the jail and the courthouse. I met with the administrative programs manager prior to this meeting, who is kind of the lead on that project. We are contracted with Tidewater contractors, or whatever their actual name is these days, but they are, of course, extremely busy, as most contractors are in our area, and they're hoping to have something to us in the next couple of weeks so we can actually do a notice to proceed and get a set date for those projects to begin.
Okay, they're already the people that are under contract to do the work, correct? Hopefully they'll get it done before the rainy season. Okay. Is there any other?
So in other words, that was much briefer than I anticipated. Much more brief.
Well, at least we're briefed. Is there anything else that anybody wants to talk about or need to talk about? Well, that's not on the agenda. I can't say anything.
We should stick to the agenda. We can actually clarify that though with you going forward and make sure that it's on the next agenda.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because when I got the email from her, this is my busy time of year too, and I didn't get anything from. I wasn't able to see her message.
Yeah,
You
just
know.
to be clear that we did get the signage, and we will be posting those signs on the construction sites as well for the paving projects. And I'm more than happy to send a copy of that sign to the committee here so you guys can take a look at it. And I'll send you a picture of where it's at the sheriff's search and rescue new location also. He sent us a photo of that, and I'd be happy to share that with you as well.
Okay, that'll work. Okay, anything else? Yeah. Yeah, because I know when I talked to the sheriff, he was going to. Yeah, because I know the sheriff was going to put the new radios he had on Facebook and going to do stuff like that to help get the word out. So, all right. Anything else that we need to discuss at this point? Any other questions for anything? All right. I guess we need a motion to adjourn. All right. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.